Hello and welcome to Female Cricket Live, powered by Radio. Match number 6 of the 2022 Commonwealth Games will be played today, that is 31st of July, between Australia and Barbados at Edgbaston in Birmingham. The match will start at 10:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, and you can catch all the live action on Sony Live app and the Sony Sports Network. Now, before previewing the match number 6 between Australia and Barbados, let us have a quick look at match number 5 that was played between India and Pakistan early in the day, which India went on to win by 8 wickets. So the match was reduced to 18 overs per side due to rain at the start of the play. Batting first, Pakistan were bowled out for 99 in 18 overs thanks to Sneh Rana and Radha Yadav, who picked up 2 wickets each. While for Pakistan, it was Muniba Ali who top scored with 32 runs. In reply, India made light work of the run chase as they completed the formalities in just 11.4 overs, thanks to Smriti Mandhana, who scored a delectable 63. On the other hand, for Pakistan, it was Tuba Hassan and Omema Sohail who were the wicket takers. Now, ahead of us, we have another exciting contest on the cards. It is between Australia and Barbados. And to talk more about that match and to preview the game, I have with me Dr. Anand Ramprasad, Dhanush Lavanya, and Neha Shetty. So, a brief introduction of all our guests tonight. So, Dr. Anand Ramprasad has a specialization in sociology of sport and he's a columnist at Trinidad Guardian. Then we have Dhanush Lavanya, who is a cricket content writer, cricket analyst, and a cricket podcaster. And finally, we have Neha Shetty, who is an avid cricket follower and a cricket podcaster. So, welcome all of you to Female Cricket Live.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right. Great. So, Dr. Anand, let us have your first thoughts on Barbados Pakistan game. I'm sure that you must be pretty happy that Barbados have registered their first win in the Commonwealth Games.
Thank you, Julie. Yes, I was very elated to see Barbados winning the game against Pakistan. And I think it went according to expectations. Barbados putting a score on the table and then being able to defend it through the use of both their fast bowlers and their captain, Haley Matthews. And I think it was also aided by Pakistan not making full use of the power play. And I think when they picked up the momentum, it was a little too late in terms of being able to cross the line with the score that Barbados made. But overall, I think everything went according to the Barbados plan. The top order, as I said, they are top heavy, and the top order delivered both Matthews and Kaisia Knight, and then the bowlers as well, who were very much experienced at the international level, were also able to complement the batters, and they were well supported in the field as well.
Absolutely. I think it was an all round team effort from the Barbados in the very first match of the Commonwealth Games to get that win. To dissect that match between Barbados and Pakistan, if we look at that century run stand between Haley Mathis and Kaisia Knight, it was wonderful to watch. But it was a little surprising to see Haley Mathis playing the second fiddle. I think in one of our conversations, I think Dr. Anand mentioned that probably being a captain could have added more maturity to her batting. So, were you surprised to see Haley Mathis playing the second fiddle, or you also expected the same thing?
I think that if we go back to the regional tournament, her approach was very much measured. And I think she is welcoming the role of captaincy and also what it requires of her, not just as the batter, but also the captain. And I think that what you saw on Friday on that game against Pakistan was really something that started in the Caribbean, in the regional tournament, where her approach was very much measured and was more of a anchor for the other batters to play around her. And I expect her to continue along that same path in this tournament and also moving forward.
Right. So now moving on to Australia, just like Barbados, even Australia have won their first match in the Commonwealth Games. So Neha, let me ask you, what are your thoughts on the Australia-India game, and how do you look at that win? Because we all know that they were struggling at 49 for 5, and we thought that probably India would have closed the game, but then Australia, we all know how dominant they have been, and they went on to win the game. So your thoughts on Australia-India game?
Right. So the Australia India game was the first match of the Commonwealth Games, and it really, was a good match, right? Now, Australia did start as favorites, and obviously they are medal contenders. They are a very dominant outfit. They've been consistent for so long, having recently, sweep the T20 World Cup and the 50 over World Cup as well. Now, I think what really stood out for me is the fact that they have this fierce and never, they never give up, right? That attitude is instilled in all of the players. In spite of being, 49 for 5, at no point did they look like, they were just going to give up. Their lower middle order was terrific, to get them to that winning position from, being in the trenches. And the depth that everyone has, right? Batting depth is something that every team should have, and Australia is like a trailblazer in that respect. Really was so impressed to see Grace Harris and Ashley Gardner just batting and building that partnership. The asking rate was getting a lot more, but they still just dominated the proceedings. And I think Australia would get like a good wake up call from that win. Like it was not their finest win, but still the partnership that Ashley Gardner and Grace Harris stitched was just phenomenal in helping Australia get across the line.
I think just one word maybe to define Australia's effort in that run chase could be resilience. Though they were out of the game, if we could say that, but then they had that resilience to come back strong and beat India in that fashion. So, Dhanush, now moving on to you, we know that Australia are coming from a win, Barbados also coming from a win. But what do you think could be the respective approaches when they take on each other just in an hour's time?
It's actually simple. It's going to be play on your strengths and just make sure that you put your plans into action. Especially, I want Barbados to just replicate what they did in the previous game. I guess it was a complete team game from every single player in that playing 11, and I just want to see how they are going to play against a side like Australia, which is completely opposite to what they played when you compare them with Pakistan. So it's going to be really an amazing opportunity for them, a good challenge for the Barbados women to punch above their weights and try to be competitive against Australia. And one positive thing that Australia will take up from previous game is that even if they're top four, which consists of the best batters in the world, even if they fail, there is some of the girls out there in the lower middle order who can step up and perform. It was a similar kind of a game which I can compare or which I can comprehend with India versus Pakistan World Cup match, where Sneh Rana and Pooja Vastrakar came in to help at the very crucial stage. So it was a pretty much replica is what I feel the first T20 match for Australia was, and to see Grace Harris and to see how those girls played and stepped up in a very crucial moment. It was really nice that it's going to be a big confidence booster for them. For Australia, they will come in as favorites once again because they know how to play against every single team. They prepare really, really well. And you can see that when they are on the field. It's going to be important for me how the Barbados women play against the spinners, especially Jess Jonathan. She took 4 wickets in that match against India, so she is going to be lethal. And we know the issues of West Indian players in general of being not so good against spin. So it's going to be a challenge for them. They played off the really well against the Pakistan women. They were economical and respective against them, against Nidadar or Anam Amin. But these spinners are even more skilled and even more seasoned, so it's going to be a challenge for them. And overall, Australia will look for the win, but Barbados will look to make sure this challenge is accepted and given 100% from there.
There's some interesting points made by Dhanush, and thank you for taking us back to that sweet win which India had over Pakistan in the World Cup. I think it was the first match, if I'm not wrong, or I think yes, during the World Cup that was played in Feb March early this year. All right, so Dr. Anand, I think a few moments back you were talking about Barbados being top heavy, and we of course know that there's Deandra Doughton, Haley Mathis, and Kaisia Knight in the top three. But then the middle order was not tested. We have somebody like an Alia Elin also in the middle order, but then that middle order was not tested against Pakistan. So do you think that could be a concern going against Australia today?
Definitely. It is going to be a major concern for Barbados because if I go back to the regional tournament in which they played 2 months ago, the middle order was not really tested in that tournament. And when they were tested, they did not really come up to scratch. And that is going to be a major concern in this game against Barbados, that against Australia, in how does the middle order handle the variety of bowling that Australia possesses. Not only the seamers, but also you have variety in the spin department, where you have the left arm spinner, you have off spin, and then you have leg spin. And as Danush mentioned, West Indian players are troubled by spinners, and here you have three quality spinners. So I think that is going to be a major issue. It's going to also put a lot of pressure on the top four, if whether they are setting or chasing, knowing that the lower or the middle to the lower order may not be able to withstand the pressure from the Australian bowlers. So that's going to be a major factor in terms of how Barbados approach the this game, whether they are setting or whether they are chasing.
Now, Neha, I think as Dhanush and Dr. Anand, both of them have pointed out that Barbados batters have some weaknesses against the spinners. So, do you think Australia could have some different bowling plans? Because I think in the last match against India, we saw Megan Shoot and Darcy Brown opening the bowling. So, do you see somebody like a Jess Jonathan opening the bowling with Megan Shoot?
Right. So Australia is often known for their strategies, right? And with Meg Lanning at the helm, they are going to come out with something unconventional. So there might be a possibility that Jess Jonathan could probably, open the bowling to just give that variety. But even unleashing someone like a Darcy Brown or like and Megan Shoot right at the start will be good for them. It will be conducive for them. Even getting in someone like an Alana King within the power plate, just makes it up a little. Might be an interesting facet that Australia might be looking to explore.
All right. So I think as Neha has spoken about what could be Australia's bowling plan, so Dhanush, let me ask you, what do you think could be Barbados' bowling plan when they take on Australia?
First of all, we all know that the biggest strength of Barbados bowling is their seam attack. They have four really quality seamers in the form of Shakira Selman. They have Alia Aline, and they have Shiner Henry, not Shiner Henry. I'm not getting the last name.
Amelia Connell.
Yeah, Chevalier Connell. So definitely, there are seasoned players out there who knows how to play against Australia. They have played against Australia as well. So it's going to be a good task, a good opportunity for them to play out to bowl their best deliveries against the Australian women. And the Australian women didn't have a good start in the previous match. They lost 4 wickets pretty early, and if they will be seeing how Team India bowlers bowled against them in that match, and they would have read or studied on what are the line and lengths which might be extracted and executed against the Australian batters. It's going to be a good head-to-head, is what I feel. The Australian top order batting versus the Barbados bowling, and if Australia are able to score runs and see them off, I guess Australia will be in the driver's seat. But it's going to be really challenging for sure because Shakira Salman, she was really economical in that match against Pakistan. So it's going to be a nice head-to-head between the seam attack and the opening batters of Australia.
Right. Interesting. So, Dr. Anand, in the last match which Barbados played against Pakistan, we saw Shamilia Connell opening the bowling with young Shanika Bruce. So, do you see the same bowling combination going in, or do you see somebody like a Shakira Selman opening the bowling with Shamilia Connell?
It is possible that they may go with the more experienced Salman and Connell, given the fact that you are bowling against Healy and Mooney. So I think that they may consider opening with Salman as well as Connell, given the experience of the Australian batters. But just going back to that question that Danush was responding to, I think one of the limitations that Barbados may face in this game is that their bowling attack is predominantly one dimensional, and you are coming up against a batting lineup that probably feeds off the faster bowling coming from Australia. And the Australians are noted for attacking, and they would try to go after the bowlers. Once they can do that, that can then feed into the other bowlers as well. And where you may not have other bowlers now to take the pace off the ball, that can present a serious problem for Barbados because their bowling attack is very one dimensional. And the only spinner that you have there is Haley Matthews. So that's going to be a concern. And I think Barbados, Australia would be looking at that as well. And they may tee off against one of the more experienced bowlers to psychologically undermine the remaining bowlers. So, and going back to Niha's point earlier on, I think Australia will be coming into this game from a wake up call and not wanting to put any foot wrong again, not wanting to end up in a similar situation against Barbados as they would have against India. So I think that's going to be a concern. That is a concern for me, that the one-dimensional attack that the Barbados team has against this Australian batting lineup.
Absolutely. So I think both the teams are going to come out all guns blazing, because I feel that if Australia wins this match or Barbados wins this match, it is almost certain that either of these teams are going into the semi-finals. So let us see what happens in the match going ahead between Australia and Barbados. So Neha, we all know that you shouldn't change something that is not broken. But do you think Australia will make any changes in the playing 11 tonight?
I feel it's highly unlikely that Australia will make a change to their playing 11 or tinker with it much, because Australia is the team management basically believes a lot in their players. They want to instill confidence, and they don't really change the winning combination as much. And the match versus India was just, they had an off day. I mean, any champion outfit can have an off day, so it's very very unlikely that they will enforce a change. But if they had to bring in a change, I'd probably say they'd bring someone like an Elise Perry in place of Thalia Megra. But that again seems unlikely, because they would want to stick with this combination, see it for another game. But again, if they have an off day, maybe they will have to introspect, when they square off against Pakistan a little later on.
Right. So mostly, according to Neha, Australia could go ahead with the unchanged playing 11 which we saw against India. So Dhanush, what do you think will Barbados do? Will they have any changes in the playing 11, or do you think they'll be an unchanged one?
They will go with an unchanged squad. I guess the playing 11 we saw in the first match was the perfect one. And as I said in the beginning of our conversation, they had a perfect match against Pakistan. Every department worked onto its plan, and the puzzles just placed itself, and it was just they just did the job that they had come in to do, and it was a great game for them to start off the tournament. And I don't think so they will be looking forward to make any changes or of such thing. And it's just need to be sticking on to your plans and not getting helter skelter the moment you get smashed in one over or the other. And it's just going to be keeping yourself and holding yourself so that you are disciplined on the field when you are fielding and bowling. And also the batting must from Deandra Rotten is someone who I'm expecting an aggressive kind of a batting, because she didn't have a good score in the previous game. So if she starts off well and the power play is going good for them, I guess they can take off on that in the rest of the innings.
Okay, so I think both Neha and Dhanush feel that either of the sides, Australia or Barbados, they'll have an unchanged playing 11, more or so. So, Dr. Anand, we have already seen 5 matches in this Commonwealth Games in women's cricket. So, how do you assess the pitch and the conditions, and what are your expectations from the pitch in the game between Australia and Barbados?
Well, from the games we have seen so far, the pitch seems to be good for batting. It seems to be a score of 150 plus. Once the teams who are batting first can um, overcome the initial overs, I think there's runs to be had. And we have seen in a couple games scores of 150. And I expect the scores to be similar to that again moving in this game. Whoever bats first will be looking to get 150 plus and back their bowlers to and fielders to defend that score.
Right. So anything above 150 could be on the cards. So in short, maybe a high-scoring run contest we can see between Australia and Barbados. So Neha, before we start taking up questions from the fans, let me ask you, what are the key matchups that you are looking at for this game?
Right. So, both teams coming off of wins. So, there are some very interesting matchups. But first up, I think it would be Jess Jonathan and Kaisia Knight now. Jess Jonathan was your highest wicket taker from the India game, and Kaisia Knight was the highest scorer for Barbados from the Pakistan game. Now, seeing them square off will be interesting. And I want to see the approach that Kaisia Knight will bring into, face someone like a Jess Jonathan. And Haley Matthews versus Alana King. Now, that is another interesting one. because Alana King has been in phenomenal form. I think the conditions might kind of suit her as well. And Hayley Matthews did play that very calculated, careful knock. So I'd love to see how she tackles someone like an Alana King, who's definitely going to try every variation to just bamboozle her. And another matchup that I'm definitely watching out for is Darcy Brown versus Deandra Doughton, because Darcy Brown's in swingers are just amazing, right? And she can swing the ball the other way around too. So that it will be very interesting to see how Deandra Doughton, tries to negotiate with that. And these are some of the key matchups that I'm certainly looking forward to.
Interesting. Great. Right. So, Dhanush, your quick predictions for the game?
I will say on on paper it's going to be Australia because they are the better side when you look on when it comes to performance, when it comes to skill, when it comes to how they approach the game. Because they won it in the most crucial moment of the game in the previous match against India, so they know how to hold their nerves. So it's going to be really on paper it's going to be Australia for sure, but seeing West Indies the way they performed during the World Cup or the Barbados side, I'm saying because there's a majority of the West Indies player are there in the Barbados side. I feel like how Dr. Anand said, it's going to be like if they put up a good score on the board batting first. I guess they are good defenders when it comes to defending a target, and I feel that will be the approach in today's game as well. They did that in the same against Pakistan, and who knows, we might see another West Indies New Zealand match replay or West Indies England match replay once again between Barbados and Australia in today's game. I'll be really really happy if Barbados get this victory. It will be an upset for sure, and it's going to be huge for West Indies cricket and cricket in general because underdog side not so much. There is not much expectations from this side, and they already turned those expectations into big factor in the first game when they won against Pakistan. And now this is going to be a huge, huge win for them. But if they lose, it's going to be do or die against India for them. So anyways, it's going to be a challenge for Barbados. I'm looking forward to see how they play. But Australia are the ones who are the ones are going to win the match, is what I feel.
Right. So, I'm sure Dr. Anand will not agree with you, Dhanush. So, let us hear his predictions.
Well, I think on paper, I agree with Danush that Australia will start as favorites to win the game, especially given their track record against West Indies. And when we look at this Barbados team, you have seven players who primarily play for the West Indies, and Australia has a almost perfect record against West Indies teams like in T20 cricket. In fact, they've only lost one game against West Indies in T20 cricket, and that was the 2016 final. So I think on paper, Australia will start as favorites. On the day of the match, anyone can win. It's a toss up. Whoever holds their nerve and perform according to their skill sets will prevail. I think Australia would be coming into this game, both teams having won, but I think that game against India would have jolted Australia to the point that they should not take anyone for granted, and they need to put out their A game here on. And I think that is going to be something that they will start off with an advantage. They have a winning culture and a winning culture against all teams, including the West Indies and including this Barbados team in terms of the players. So they know how to win. They demonstrated that against India. And I think that both on paper, they will start as favorite, and on the field of play, I think they will also prevail. As much as I would like Barbados to win the game, but I have to be practical as well. I mean, unless there's some, wonderful performances on the field of play, I think Australia will prevail in this game.
Absolutely. So, I think for Dr. Anand, head says Australia, but heart definitely says Barbados. All right. So, I think we are getting some questions from our fans. So, if we can start taking them. All right. Mars has a question for us. Barbados showed great promise during the opener. Do you see them stick to the same batting template of taking it deep, or should they look to change gears a bit early? Dr. Anand, would you like to share your thoughts on this?
I think they will seek to take the same approach given the depth and the variety of the Australian bowling, and also recognizing that their middle and lower order have not been tested. And I think the top four batters are going to carry the bulk of the batting as much as possible. So I think you will expect a similar template, similar approach to the one that the game against Pakistan if they bat first. If chasing as well, you would expect that the the batting will fall on that top four. So either way, whether they are setting batting first or chasing, I think the approach is going to be similar, where the top order is going to carry the bulk of the weight in terms of putting a score on the board or chasing down a total.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Anand, for answering this. Right. Can we take the next question? Okay. Steve Carl is asking us. We have seen spinners have good assistance. So, do you see Amanda Jade Wellington come in picture for today's game, or maybe in any of the next? Dhanush, would you like to throw some light on this?
Yeah, definitely seeing the way the first match went, where Radha Yadav and Sneh Rana got a lot of assistance in the wicket, and they literally took off the last 4 5 wickets in on a hurry in a couple of overs. So definitely the spinners will get assistance, but I don't think so. This Australia side will make any changes, because whom do you take out if you really want to make a change? Talia McGrath, you might think, but she's like your second best player in the current scenario when it comes to the consistency and the form is concerned. And Ashley Gardner just had a really good match in the previous game, and she's also a spinner herself. So you have three spin options in Alana King, Ashley Gardner, and Jess Jonathan, three varieties altogether. I guess those three will be enough against the Barbados batting, because we know that the spinners issues when it comes to West Indian batters. So I don't think so. There is a need for Amanda Wellington or anyone else to come in.
Great. Thank you, Dhanush, for your answer. Okay. Can we have the next question, please? Okay, Harsh is asking us, Australia had a near escape in the opener. Do you see them bringing in Elise Perry to use her experience and ease down the nerves with everyone else playing aggressive cricket? So, Neha, let me ask you this to answer this question, because I think you were talking about Perry, if she could make her way into the playing 11.
Right. So, agreed. Australia did have a near escape in the opener versus India. But again, right, the point comes in as to who will she replace. Now, Elise Perry is a veteran, but she's had an off season for some time. Injuries have plagued her, and you have so many good youngsters, who have made a mark for themselves. You have Talia Megra, and she's like one of your finest all rounders too. One game obviously can't define her. The opener versus India, where she had an off day. So it's kind of unlikely that we would see Elise Perry making her way into the playing 11. But yeah, her experience will be crucial, and I think she'll be playing a role of a mentor on the sidelines rather than actually making it to the playing 11, at least for this game.
Right, great. Thank you, Neha. Right, I think we have one final question from our fan. Okay, James Taylor is asking us, Anand sir, rather, a competitive night, Kaisia or Kaishona? Yes, Dr. Anand.
I think they're both prepared to take on the task. If I go back to the regional tournament in April, Kaishona batted out of her skin. She was far more aggressive than we have known her to be. So I think that they both bring to the table aggression. I wouldn't say either one is much more competitive than the other. They both play their respective roles depending on the situation, and I expect the same again today when they come up against the Australians.
Thank you, Dr. Anand, for your wonderful insights on the Knight sisters. All right, we have one more question from Linda James. Will Australia or Barbados, with a win today, secure their spot for the knockouts? Tanush, would you like to answer this?
Definitely, it's going to be 2-0 for either of these two teams, and they will finish up at the first or the second spot. And seeing the way, I'm not going to make any predictions right now. We have already done that. It's going to be simple. Whoever wins this game, they are going to qualify, and that's going to be a very simple answer. The winner is going to win their second game, and they will either finish one or two. Simple.
Perfect. All right. Great. So thank you once again to Dr. Anand, Dhanush, and Neha for taking out time and talking to us about this exciting contest between Australia and Barbados. The match will start at 10:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, and all the fans can catch the live action on Sony Live app and Sony Sports Network. So we'll be back on the 2nd of August, that is Tuesday, to preview the match between England and South Africa. We'll be back at 2 p.m. IST, and you can send us all your questions using hashtag Female Cricket Live. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.